friends, welcome back to the Flower Files. I'm Liza, flower farmer, maybe a soil nerd, and the person who is about to save you from making a big spring mistake that people commonly do. Because listen, spring hits, the sun comes out, and you feel motivated, and suddenly it's like, everything looks dead, everything should go. And I get it. Trust me, I really get it. It's very tempting. But if you take nothing else from this episode, take this. Not everything that looks dead is dead. And not everything you should cut should be cut right now. So today we're going to break down what to cut, what to leave, what to wait on, and this one probably matters a lot, and how to clean your garden without setting yourself back for the entire season. So let's get into it. So first, spring cleanup is not a reset button. It kind of feels like it, and this is where I think a lot of growers get it a little wrong. They treat spring cleanup like, okay, we're gonna wipe the slate, we're gonna get rid of everything, we're gonna clean it all, mulch everything, and it'll be perfect. And you're not starting from scratch. You're not wiping out last year's mistakes. Your garden doesn't work like that. Your garden is a living system. And everything you're looking at right now, those dried stems, the fallen leaves, the messy edges, all of that, that's not that you didn't do the garden right. That is protection. That is actually habitat. And technically, it's stored energy as well. So when you rush to clean it all up, you risk pulling out plants that are still alive, removing beneficial insect habitat. You could expose your soil too early, which then translates into, weeds. And everybody knows I hate weeds. Actually, if you're doing some of these things too early, you could trigger weaker growth in your plants. So instead of thinking, what can I remove? Think of the plant and what is it doing right now? Because that question alone will make you a completely different gardener. Maybe a better gardener. So what to cut in the spring? What do you do and what do you do first? Because I want to be practical. Because winter's over, you want to get out there, you want to plant your fresh annuals, you want everything to look sharp and pretty. Maybe you have a party coming up. Maybe it's just your space. So there are things that you absolutely do want to cut back right now. Anything that is a dead annual. So zinnias, sunflowers, basil, cosmos, if it's brown and crispy and clearly done, you can cut it off at the base. But, and this is important, if those plants drop seed, you may want to leave a few standing or shake them out first, because that mess, those dead plants, are actually free plants. So if you want to, you could actually, instead of cutting it off at the base and taking the entire plant out, you could start at the top and go clip, 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 clip it into small pieces and have all of that return back into the earth and throw a little mulch on top. Then you're adding organic matter back into your system, your garden's a little happier, and you get free plants. If this isn't where you want them, then maybe you could pick that up and move it to a different place. Maybe if you have enough space, you could scatter it in a whole other space. So there's a lot of different ways that you can actually use that plant material that is currently dead. I preface all of this by saying none of this applies if you had a disease with something. One of the things that happened in my garden this year here in Maryland, one of the things that we fought, we had unusually very cold temperatures. It's taken out my camellia. My camellia has lived here as long as my kids were little. And it absolutely crushes my soul. It doesn't break my heart, it crushes my soul that massive plant, which was a beacon for me in fall is ending and it was the final push. Camellias actually bloom 2 times of the year. There's a spring variety and a fall variety. And it's just completely defoliated. I have I think 50 leaves on it. And I'm like, are you trying? Are you going to make it? But it's just, it just can't do it. So If you have anything that had an issue last year, or you see something that currently has an issue, you want to get rid of that, because those spores are going to go back down into your soil and then potentially expand. So powdery mildew, any of your blights, any of your rusts, do not compost that material. If you're new to composting and you're not sure what you're doing, or if you're not running it hot enough, that is a potential spot for you to reintroduce disease. So you want to remove it, you want to get it out of the garden, and this is one of the few times where your cleanup should be particularly aggressive. Don't mess with diseases. And if you don't know what powdery mildew, blight, or rust is, we are in the process of putting together a blog to talk about some common diseases, so keep an eye out for that. So that's a catch-all for perennials, annuals, shrubs, anything that has a disease you're going to remove. But if you're looking at perennials and you're trying to figure out what do I clean up and what do I leave, there's some perennials that actually prefer what's called a hard reset, because they actually want to be cut back. But the important thing is you want to cut them back at the correct time of year. So things that like a good reset are black-eyed Susans, all your varieties of black-eyed Susans. And fun fact, our annual black-eyed Susans, they reseed so heavy, they're more like perennials for us. Another perennial that enjoys being cut back with a hard reset is bee balm. Bee balm is just cut straight down to the ground, and that is you cut it back and it comes back like 10 times fuller. And that is actually one of our favorite greens to use in the spring, because it pushes early and it really helps us fill some gaps when it comes to greens. It's a good sturdy green too, because it has that square stem like the mint family has. Phlox is another one. Phlox is, if you're growing phlox and you're managing the powdery mildew, pat yourself on the back, because that's a tough one. Phlox is particularly difficult to grow in our area, at least because we have such high humidity. So go ahead and give that a good hard trim back. You want to cut them down to about 2 to 4 inches, okay, above the ground. This clears the space for fresh growth, but it also reduces the potential for disease pressure. So that kind of covers annuals and perennials. I want to chat a little bit about ornamental grasses. Ornamental grasses need to be trimmed back before that new growth really takes off. If you haven't cut your grasses back, you're on a clock. You want to cut them back before those green shoots get too tall. And I want to preface this with, if you live in an area where it's possible and that green growth hasn't started yet, some people actually will trim them back a certain amount and then they burn them as well. Grasses that are ornamental have a really thick core, and over time it's harder and harder and harder for the grass to push through with certain varieties. So they really benefit from a very close haircut, but the older they get, the thicker those stems are and that dried material is, and it's really difficult to manage. If you don't cut them back, they are also another perennial variety of plant that those seeds will go and they end up everywhere if you don't manage them. So there's different grasses that are a little more aggressive, and once they get root, man, it's really tough to get them out. So our rule of thumb is always plant a grass where you're never going to want to transplant it. Those grasses, those varieties, some varieties are so incredibly thick that I've actually backed up our mower in the back of our tractor really, really high, and then I back it down on it, and the sounds that it makes, I mean, it's just so thick and tough. So it's, you want to cut them back before that green shoot starts to really get too tall, and otherwise you'll be hacking through the fresh growth, and it just gets really, really messy fast. We actually harvest a lot of our grass seed heads in the fall in 2 different sections. So just a fun tip for fall. They're nice and fluffy at one point in the fall, in that first section when they first start to emerge. And then later on in the season, after the wind has beaten them up some and a lot of those seeds are off, they're a totally different style. So you can get a lot of things and a lot of uses from your grasses. And then you can use the grass in all kinds of fun like designs and twist it in your vases and looped inside things. Grasses add a really neat whimsical element. So on top of all the different seed heads. So lots of different things that you can do with your grasses. Okay, so what do you leave? And this is, I think, the part that some people get a little bit confused about. And I don't think people talk about this enough, because a clean garden culture has most people thinking bare is better. And it's not. And here's why. Okay, I wrote some good notes on this one. So hollow stems. If your plant has hollow stems, things like echinacea, black-eyed Susan, Joe Pye weed, things like that, leave them for as long as possible in early spring. Why? Your native bees are literally living inside them. Everybody is very familiar with the honeybee, and they know how critical they are and how much pollination they do, and they're used to kind of the stacked hives and the Langstroth or the boxes and all of that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of native bees that are living in plants that are native to our area. They've been here, they know how to survive. If you cut them too early now, you're destroying their habitat, you're reducing pollination potentially, and you're hurting your garden long term. There's a lot of beneficial insects that will live inside that hollow stem that have egg masses that are just hiding in there for safety. You know, there's so many beneficial insects that are trying to live in there. So if you do need to cut them, don't cut them at the base and completely remove them. Trim them down in sections. Maybe it's 3 sections. And if it's the flower head itself, I'm thinking Joe Pye weed, for example, has a really long stem with a big bushy top that gets left. Trim those off and maybe let them break down, and then trim your stems down. And maybe that's a better way to do it. So cut it in stages and leave some sections standing. So you can leave certain sections taller, you can leave certain sections shorter, just to ensure that you maybe are leaving something there for your pollinators. Okay, here's another one. Leaf litter. Yes, I know you want to rake it. I know it's something that we've been trained to do. But you know why we have some of the best soil in the entire world here in our deciduous forests? It's because of that leaf litter. That organic matter is going right back down into your soil. And let's face it, it looks a little messy, so maybe you want it gone, but it technically is protecting your soil structure. It's holding moisture. It's feeding all of your biology. It's feeding all of the things that are living in your soil, your worms, your insects, everything that depends on that. And it's also sheltering them as well. So instead of removing all of it, maybe pull it back where you need to, thin it out if you have to, maybe move it around a little. But in our gardens, I mulch on top of it. You still get that nice clean look. You end up using less mulch, and the leaves lay naturally. I will say one thing to keep in mind. I'm talking about regular deciduous trees, maple, oak, ash, beech, like all of those main trees. If you have pine needles, that's going to be a little bit different. It's still okay to leave them, but it's going to be even more important that you do soil sampling to understand where your pH is. Your pH is going to be impacted by those really acidic needles. So make sure that maybe a little more often you're checking that area. You're going to see a different growth, and your plants are going to react differently under there. So when I say leave everything, yes, you can leave everything, but also know how that could potentially impact your pH. But let's face it, you go to the garden center and you buy leaf mold. That's literally leaves chopped up and broken down. So leave it. Trust me, leave it. Another thing that I commonly get asked about, and another thing that we see here in our gardens, Sometimes perennials are just late. Sometimes we want them to grow. Sometimes we think they should be doing more than they are. And some plants are drama queens. Some plants are really drama queens, but they take their time. And every spring, someone will panic and say, this didn't come back, or this isn't doing well, or I don't think this made it. Be patient and wait. I see it in my crepe myrtles. We have crepe myrtles that have lived on this farm for over 50 years. Some of them are massive. And every year I look at them and go, did you make it? It's the middle of April. Are you going to make it? So be patient. A couple other plants here that I listed out. Butterfly weed. Any of your butterfly weed is really, really slow to get started. And a lot of this depends on your soil temperatures as well. So that's going to impact when things start to wake up. Hibiscus is another one. That's another perennial that people tend to be a little concerned about. Hey, did this die? Did it make it? Give it a little time. If you're super unsure and you're super stressed about seeing if your perennial or your shrub is going to come back, here's a quick test. Take your thumb, take your nail, and scratch the tissue of that perennial a little further down. Or snap your ends. If it's whippy and it doesn't snap right off, it's still in there, it's still alive. But just be patient. Just be patient. I think one of the things okay, so here's a secret weapon. That's what I'm trying to get out here. So the 50-degree rule, which is your secret weapon that we use. If you've heard of this before, okay, I'd love your interpretation. But if you've never heard of it before, wait until there are consistent 50-degree temperatures before a heavy cleanup. You want 50 degrees consistently, because that's when your beneficial insects emerge, your soil biology really has woken up, and plants actually really actively start to grow. I know there's the green hue at the very beginning of spring and everybody's like, okay, it's time to go. But wait just a little bit longer. You can see, for instance, when the red buds start, those flowers come and they're beautiful, and then the green starts to shift. As those temperatures heat up, your garden starts to shift as well. Because if you clean up before that, you're disrupting that entire system, that entire process mid-transition. So instead of rushing, watch the weather. You want to watch your soil, and you're going to listen to your plants. Yes, your plants talk to you, just like your soil talks to you, and just like the weather tells you things too. But let the garden tell you when it's ready for you to clean up. So how do you clean up without setting yourself back? So let's talk about a strategy, because if you're dying to get out there and you want to get everything cleaned up and organized and you're ready to go to the garden center and get all the fun stuff for the year, it's not about doing nothing. I'm not a proponent of that, because it has to be realistic, but I want you to do it right. So you want to clean in passes, clean in sections, not all at once. Don't do a massive cleanup day. Do a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. Observe and see what everything is ready for. And then go back through and do a second pass. This will help you understand where your garden is in the process, and it will prevent you from making irreversible mistakes. Oh, that perennial didn't come back, we're going to pull it. Well, maybe it didn't need to be pulled. So give everything a little bit of time. Maybe you start with your annuals and you clip them down. Leave those longer hollow stems. Then you tackle some of your perennials. Or maybe you do it in small sections and then come back and do it in other sections. I know everybody wants everything done, but it doesn't always work like that. You want to work from your soil up. So before you cut everything, look at your soil. What is it telling you? Is it compacted? Is it soggy? Is it dry and crumbly? Spring cleanup is actually a soil moment, not just a plant moment. And don't just remove. Every time you remove something, ask yourself, what am I putting back? And this is where compost comes in. Compost is an amazing amendment, and we've talked a lot about amendments. But a really simple move is to add 1 to 2 inches of compost, tuck that in, give it a light water, tuck a little mulch on top, and that alone will outperform just about any of your fancy fertilizers. Okay, so you don't want to over tidy. This is probably the hardest one and what most people aren't familiar with, because aesthetically, you want clean lines, you want the garden to look neat, you want nothing out of place. But biologically, that's completely not healthy. You want a messy garden. You want a garden that is more resilient. You want a garden that is going to hold your moisture better, and it's going to be more pollinator and beneficial insect friendly. So give yourself the permission to live a little wild in your garden. I want to talk a little bit about some common spring cleanup mistakes. I would just want to rapid fire these because I see them every year. Don't cut everything too early. Don't rake your soil bare. Don't pull plants before they've had a chance to emerge and you can figure out if they've come back. Don't over-till. Please stop over-tilling everything. Don't dump fertilizer in just because it looks like, oh, I'm going to fix my soil or I'm going to make it grow better. Understand your soil before you amend it. And don't try to make everything look finished too soon in the season. Your garden's not behind and you're not behind. It's just waking up. I don't know about you, but it takes me a minute to wake up in the morning. My garden's very similar to me. So if you're feeling like I'm behind or I should have done this already, or oh my gosh, I can't believe, I still have to get these things finished, you're not behind. Gardens don't run on your calendar. They run on temperature, they run on light, they run on soil conditions, they run on moisture. So instead of forcing it and trying to make it work, pay attention, move with it, and support it. And you'll get the best results with probably a little less effort. If this episode helped you rethink how you approach your garden this spring, you're going to love what we're building inside our soil course, because this is exactly what we go deeper on. We talk about how your soil actually works, how to read it, and how to make decisions that improve everything you grow. And it doesn't matter if you're growing plants, vegetables, I guess you don't grow animals. But it's not guesswork. It's not a trend. It's not the cool thing that you see. It's actually really what works in the ground. So you can check it out in the show notes below. And as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for growing with me. And I'll see you in the next one.